So it seems to be a trend right now for younger generations to be hating on boomers because of their generational wealth that they're just being given, essentially. And I think the facts do state that boomers or the older generations do have all this appreciating assets and value and money, essentially, right? I do think that is correct. And there seems to be this trend, especially on TikTok, of just starting to go against boomers and hating boomers because the first trend is that they are just given all this wealth. You know what I mean? And not only given this wealth, but they're just going and doing whatever the heck they want with that. A lot of these boomers bought their homes for $140,000, 20 or even 20 to 40 years ago, and then now they're selling their homes for anywhere between $500 to $700,000, and they're taking that wealth and going and doing whatever they want. And also, another trend is that they're not super involved with their grandkids because they're out just doing whatever they want with their buttloads of money. And the younger generation is really angry about a lot of this, especially the wealth. The wealth and money seems to be the driver because, I see it as just being the driver, and I will say personally that my parents are boomers, and they are a lot wealthier than I am, obviously. They have rental properties, their own homes, and they're sitting on a lot of money in just appraising or just real estate in general. You know what I mean? And it's appreciating. It appreciated like crazy, and that's kind of the hatred that boomers are getting right now with this appraising assets of real estate. And yes, it's kind of not fair, but they're taking what they can, what they were given. You know what I mean? So like, to be angry about this, I really don't understand it. I do disagree with boomers as grandparents not being involved with their grandkids. That one does scratch me a little differently. But I think it really kind of depends what type of boomer you're dealing with. It's a weird dynamic right now where this young Gen X generation really does not like boomers, and it seems to be going viral like crazy. And I don't really know how to feel about it because I also do find myself a little angry that as the younger generation, we have to just like snowplow through all this BS and just hardship to just try to just get a glimpse or a fraction of what boomers got so easily. Our economy's in the hole. The interest rates are so high. They're saying that most Gen X is not even going to ever own a home, and you just have to say goodbye to that whole idea. And how depressing is that? Like the idea of raising a family. So now Gen X is, they're not having children. It's essentially kind of the decay of society when our youngest generation is doing so much more worse than the older generations. You know what I mean? I do think it's a huge issue. And even though, most people don't really care, it seems to be just like the youngest generation that really kind of cares right now about this. But I do think moving forward, it's going to be a huge issue for the economy because all of our generations are connected. You know what I mean? Because once one of them goes, we're on to the next, and your time eventually comes up. And now we also have the idea of AI kind of destroying civilization. And like the youngest generation now has to also deal with that. It's extremely depressing for this Gen X on hating boomers. It started with the whole financial, like them hating the financial status of all these appreciating assets and just having a better life in general. So like, I really don't know how I feel about it, but I would love to hear your opinions. I'm more or less just kind of venting on this because as a finance guy, just kind of like, I do analyze this, I do get on socials, and I don't post a lot on this channel, but I do kind of treat it as like, just like a personal vlog and / therapy session. You know what I mean? So I know there's only a few of you people watching this, but I do appreciate you guys, and hit me up in the comments. You know what I mean? Because this is a huge issue, and AI is like gonna just like, it's like the frosting on the cake right now. AI is really, really gonna make things rough for the youngest generation, and simultaneously, Gen X doesn't want to work blue collar. A lot of them are white collar. So, and that's the first jobs that AI is going to be taking, which is extremely scary. So I think it's a really scary time for this youngest generation and everything to come. my daughter, I'm worried about everything. You know what I mean? Because we're trying to plan for our future, and I think a lot of this younger generation feels like Gen or Boomers just don't really care about them and their livelihood. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It is what it is, and this whole Gen X thing, hating Boomers for the financial crisis they're in. I don't know if Boomers are the ones to blame, but they're pointing fingers, and it's almost it. I don't. What are Boomers supposed to be doing to fix this? You know what I mean? That's the big question. So I'm just here ranting. Consider subscribing. All right, guys. Later.